Do you hear me well? Is there a mic? Is it open? Right? Okay, صباح الخير وأهلا بالجميع. أنا اسمي فارع.
Good morning and welcome everyone. My name is Farea Al-Muslimi. I'm a specialist in the Yemen and GCC file in Chatham House, and I'm very happy and delighted today against the weather because it has been a year exactly for me in Chatham House. So launching this big event is satisfactory to me. I'm very pleased to have this meeting. This is the second session of today's conference about Yemen. We had a series of discussions in the past few months and weeks with people in Yemen and the area as part of the MENA program led by Dr. Bakil, focusing on Yemen, Iraq, Libya, and many other files. And today we are talking about the Red Sea. This is the second big conference about Yemen in a moment that is not less important. It's the 29th of February. It's a very rare date. And it's also very rare for us to talk about the Red Sea. I'd like to welcome a dear friend to Chatham House, General Tareq Saleh. You're welcome. The Vice Chairman of the PLC, Presidential Leadership Council, and the Commander of the National Resistance. There are many files that we want to discuss today, developments in Yemen and the Red Sea, the relations within the PLC, the negotiations with the Houthis. But let us start from the Red Sea because it's almost red because of the blood that is almost to be spilled there. So what is the current situation? What is your reading of the developments in the Red Sea? And to what extent you see that the current ramifications of the current attacks of the Houthis will have an impact on the global trade, Israel and other countries. So what is the scope of the crisis that we are talking about in the Red Sea? On the crisis of the Red Sea, it's a result. It's a result of some earlier preparations that have been conducted after the Stockholm Agreement. The Stockholm Agreement prevented the government and the legitimate forces from liberating Hodeidah, allow the Houthis to control the seaports under international umbrella. What is happening in the Red Sea is not a result of what is happening in Gaza. The size of the capabilities given to the Houthis, this shows that this was pre-planned and pre-prepared, and it is not a reaction to what is happening in Gaza. The missiles and the drones are in hundreds now, the attacks. It's not an action and the reaction as a result of what is happening in Gaza. So the international community prevented the liberation of Hodeidah and the securing of the Yemeni seaports and did not empower the government forces, and this led us to this situation. We have these militias that are controlling this global trade corridor, and they are making it a war zone. You said that it has been prepared for years. To what extent the role of Iran is visible here? You said, and the government said, that these are Iranian hands, but we do not have proof. And there is a huge weapons arsenal from your cousin, President Saleh, that the Houthis inherited. They do not need the support of Iran. No, to the contrary. What proves that there is a preparation for that by the IRG and Hezbollah. The quantity of missiles that the Houthis possess now, it was not with the Yemeni army. We did not have it. And the drones as well, we did not have them. And the relentless attempts of Iran to control the Red Sea in addition to the Strait of Hormuz. So they want to have their proxies to control this very important international route. And the missiles and the weapons they have, even the names of these missiles are the same names used in Iran, even the paint of it, the same. What's the role of your forces in the current international operations? The UK and the US attacks, the EU operation, or generally speaking, the protection of these routes? Well, we said before that we do not participate in the Guardian of Prosperity operation. Why? Because we believe that this is the responsibility of the international community. The international community overlooked the Houthis and did not support us, did not support the government and did not support the coalition forces when they wanted to liberate Hodeidah. And this is beyond our capabilities. We are present on our islands, protecting our coasts and the areas that are under our control. We control these areas against any Houthi attacks. But you are not engaged at all in the current military operations? No, not at all. In case the Houthis attack not the Red Sea, but Israel only, will your position change in relation to these attacks? Our position in the Palestinian cause is principled since the revolution of Yemen on the 26th of September 1962. And this is the cause of all Arabs and the Yemenis as well. So it's every Yemeni citizen who is carrying this cause with him, the Palestinian cause. The Houthis and the Iranians are trying to hijack this file from the Arabs, but Iran is very remote and it is not involved in the current conflict. Let me continue with the Red Sea file. I have a final question on the Stockholm Agreement. You were on the verges of Hodeidah. And what is your estimation or what is your evaluation of the Stockholm Agreement and the UN role in general? So frankly speaking, we do not want to criticize and blame, but the world is paying the price of that agreement. That agreement could have curbed the capabilities of the Houthis, prevented them from smuggling weapons. It could have prevented them from moving from a front line to another. The Houthis, after the Stockholm Agreement, because the agreement says that there should be no reconnaissance flights or fighter flights in that area. So the Houthis, they managed to construct camps that are secure. And after the Stockholm Agreement, we have seen that the Houthis advanced in Marib, in Al-Jawf, in Nahem, and they have reached the outskirts of the city of Marib. And this is a direct result of the Stockholm Agreement. For the Stockholm Agreement, the government then received promises that the agreement will be implemented and that the Houthis will be evicted from the city of Hodeidah and that the three seaports, Hodeidah, Ras Isa, and the Salif seaports will be handed over to international oversight, and it did not happen. This agreement allowed the Houthis to smuggle these huge quantities of weapons. Are you thinking now and the Arab coalition to pull out of this agreement? Well, this is the responsibility of the international community. How it is the responsibility of the international community? Well, because after this agreement, there are two UN resolutions, including the resolution on the creation of the UNMA. So any decision we take will be against these international resolutions. We'll come back to the UN, but I'll discuss now the political developments related to the PLC and the political negotiations with the Houthis. What is the information that you have about the current Saudi Houthi understandings, and to what extent you as PLC are engaged in it? Well, the negotiations between the Saudis and the Houthis produced a roadmap composing of three phases, and this roadmap was presented to us as PLC, and we had some comments, and some of our comments were reflected, and the roadmap was refined. So when the roadmap was agreed upon, we found that the Houthis jumped to the Red Sea in order to escape from any obligations towards peace. The Houthis, they do not want peace. Since 2004, the Houthis have been engaged in continuous wars, and now it's 2024. It has been 20 years of war for the Houthis, and they will continue as such because it's a group that flourishes in conflicts. But now there is no political process, there are no negotiations. No, it's difficult to implement any roadmap, and the Red Sea is on fire. And we go back to the PLC, 2 years on, you do not have internal regulations to govern your work. Well, I will be working to establish internal regulations. Work is in progress. Work is in progress, and there is a consensus now at the PLC, and we are working now. We have a new prime minister, head of government, and hopefully reforms will be conducted. It's not easy, it requires time. But when we think of the current form of the PLC, these are warlords. The disputes that you have are much more than the agreements that you have. What combines you with Idris al-Zubaydi? Well, we have the shared objective of restoring the state. We have a shared objective of our fight against the Houthis, the respect of international conventions, the respect of the Yemeni right to have self-determination in the north and in the south. This is what is shared between us and the STC. We do not impose our opinions on the people in the north and in the south. There is diversity, pluralism in Yemen, but the Houthis, they want one color only. But we have diversity. We have Salafis, Sufis, Shafi'is, we have Tihamis, we have Yafi'is. We have all this diversity. We have people from Sana'a, from Hadramaut, from Lahij. Yemen is diverse, and therefore the diversity of the PLC is a reflection of the diversity in Yemen. So we cannot be one color governments. Even in Western countries, they are built based on consensus, based on pluralism and diversity. So you will not find a government that is one color. Well, talking about not the STC, the Southern Transitional Council, but the Islah and Ta'az, for example, you are the biggest powers in Ta'az, you and the Islah, but until now, you did not create a shared platform for you and the Islah and Ta'az. Well, the area is still in a conflict time, but we have security and military coordination with the Islah. And we have the local authorities. We are present in the West Coast, but our tools to manage these areas are the local authorities, the governors, the local authorities, and the security managers who are appointed by the government. So we do not unilaterally administer these areas. We have district managers, station managers. We have the institutions of the government present. Talking about not the Islah, but the GPC, the General People's Congress. Many people of the GPC, they believe that the creation of your political bureau is an attempt to eliminate the GPC. No, we have a cause. We are fighting in order to restore our state, and the GPC is a big party. And we said that it is still there, it has presence, but in order to move in the political process, and because there are divisions within the GPC, there is a group inside the country, another group outside, and because the vision of the GPC is not unified, so this created difficulties in dealing with the political file or who represents us in this political scene. So we have created our bureau. Forget the parties, it's a military and a personal question. The Salafis, they are our brothers. They are our brothers. And you have very fond relations with them, not at the military and the pragmatic level, but some people say that you are a devout person, and the relationship between you with the Salafis is not a military relationship. Are you religious? And it's rare in your family. No, it's not rare in my family to be religious. Thanks God, I was born in a conservative family. My father was devout, was religious, and he was a man of discipline. And he taught us discipline, and we have inherited all these features from him, including the discipline. Your relationship with the Salafis, we have the common goal, and we fight together. Talking about the international and regional actors, the Saudis and the Emiratis are unhappy, are not in agreement or in tandem. To what extent this affects you on the ground? Well, it does not affect us in the West Coast. What about the remaining parties? Well, there are disagreements because of the parties and the components themselves. And these things are resolved within the committees and the coordination that we have. We have consultations. We solve these things internally or between the brothers themselves. But our brothers, the Saudis and the Emiratis, they do not impose on us anything related to our internal procedures. They leave these things to the Yemenis. Sometimes they are mentors, sometimes they are brokers or mediators in order to resolve conflicts and bring views closer. Talking about talking about the regional and international community, so there is a civil war, and we have parties of the civil war, and they have alliances that are regional and global. And the local parties, they lose sometimes. You have been fighting the Houthis since 2004. And you have won that war without any external coalitions or allies. And recently you have lost for the Houthis while you had external allies. And The Khashoggi price was the Stockholm Agreement. So it was a loss for you. So where do you win and where do you lose when you have friends outside as a military person? Well, there should be partnership and support. We found our brothers in Saudi Arabia and UAE. We found them as true and credible allies with us, and they are serious in our battle. So that's fine for us. The Houthis, who created the Houthis and how they were established? They were established on the hands of the IRG, and they were receiving the training from Iran and on the hands of Hezbollah in Iran, or they go to Syria and from Syria to Iran. So they receive their military training and everything. How many IRG and Hezbollah members in Yemen? Well, according to the need, the numbers may increase or decrease according to the operations. Are they still active in Yemen? Yes, absolutely. And they run the operations rooms. And Abdul Malik al-Houthi said that. He said at the beginning of Gaza, when it started, when people exercised pressure on him, and they said that your slogan is death to America and death to Israel, what is your position? And he said in the first statement that there are operations rooms for the axis of resistance, and they coordinate. And when this operations room decides any action, we will do what is our part of it. It's not; these are not my words. These are the words of Abdul Malik. In 2007, you lost the Sana'a battle because you fought against the IRG, not the Houthis. Well, the Battle of Sana'a was imbalanced. There was no balance of power. So the Republican Guards, the Houthis controlled the capital and controlled the camps when they invaded Sana'a, and they detained the prime minister and the government. We fought with our bodyguards. Actually, we fought because the Yemeni state was eroded and the Yemeni society was subject to oppression in Sana'a. We were seeing that children were recruited to fight by the Houthis, and we said no to that. And the educational curriculum was changed in order to have one color of the entire society. So I will have my last question before I receive questions from those in the room and the online. You said that in 2017 you fought with your personal guards. You had few people only. How many people you have now? Well, we have enough people to fight against the Houthis. You should not be worried. But you, the military people who supports you and who holds you accountable, well, we prepare our forces, we equip them. Let me ask you this question. You, the PLC and the military commanders on the ground in the past 10 years, you evaded all questions and accountability. You were not held accountable, and now you continue in the same process. We are committed to the rules of engagement and the local authority laws and the resolutions of the government. So we never violated that. We are a very disciplined force. But if I have a problem with Tareq Saleh, who holds him accountable? The PLC. But you have forces more than Rashad, actually. No, this is not right. We observe the law, and the law is above everyone. And therefore, we fought against the Houthis because we want the rule of law, the law. We fought for the revolutions of September, October, and 22nd of May. We did not fight for any legacy or any family. We fought for principles, and Ali Abdullah Saleh died as a principled man.
يده وايضا بنفس الوقت يعرف عن اسمه وايضا ساخذ اي اسئله موجوده.
You have to identify yourself, and I also ask those who are online to ask their questions as well. And so please identify yourself first before you're asking the question. 30 seconds, please. Otherwise, I will interrupt you.
It's going to be in English, so hopefully there's no problem. Okay. First of all, welcome. My name is Shad. I'm a student at Royal Holloway, and I'm also a Chatham House member. I'm from Erbil, Iraqi Kurdistan. My question is, Saudi Arabia has shown a degree of hesitation in responding to the Houthi attacks on ships navigating the Red Sea. The situation emerges in the context of a UN-led peace process aiming at reconciling the involved parties, wherein the Houthis arguably and maybe controversially seem to hold a strategic advantage. This also coincides with a period of improving relations between Saudi Arabia and Iran.
And the question?
And the question is this: given your role as the Vice President of the Presidential Leadership Council, does this worry you? Thank you.
Yeah. And the next one, the one behind.
أنا إبراهيم محمد عزيز من كردستان العراق. أشكرك.
My name is Ibrahim Muhammad Aziz from Kurdistan, Iraq. I thank you very much for this meeting. You said that this war in the Red Sea is not related to Gaza, but this did not take place before the 7th of October events. Then you said that there is the hijacking of the Palestinian issue by Iran. But what is taking place now in the negotiations for the exchange of prisoners and the ceasefire, Qatar and Egypt are leading the negotiations. Then my question is the war in the Red Sea as a result of Gaza or before Gaza? I mean, the first question is, are you concerned? The Saudis were mediators, and they have engaged in discussions with the Houthis, and they reached the roadmap, and they are trying to maintain this. The second thing, the Houthis have targeted the international navigational route, and the international community is kept silent. But when Yemenis were blockaded in Ta'iz and Al-Rala and in Marib and in the western coast of the international community did not say anything. So before the ship attacks, the Houthis abducted Egyptian fishing vessels and the Rawabi vessel, and no one said anything. But a year ago, they targeted the oil export terminals in Al-Dabba, but the international community did not say anything. They said that there was a Yemeni problem, but we confirm that the Houthis are an international threat. And that's what we have been saying since the Saada wars. But the international communities were saying that this is a Yemeni problem. The Houthis were established with the aim of controlling Bab al-Mandab and creating a threat in the region. Speaking about the Bab al-Mandab, your uncle, many of you, seems that you are trying to rewrite history. History cannot be rewritten. Ali Abdullah Saleh was a military officer. He was a revolutionary, and he worked with his companion to establish a state, and he created a legacy. And we have come to maintain that legacy, the legacy of Al-Hamdi, Al-Ariani, Qahtan al-Sha'bi, Ali Salim Muhammad, and all of these Yemeni presidents who are trying to found to a state of institutions and law and respect for the Constitution.
Hi there, good day. Thank you, Farea, for organizing. My question is on the first Red Sea crisis, and that relates to the Safir oil tanker. I wonder if I could get your opinion on the military value of that tanker to the Houthis, because as we remember, this was one of the first cases in which the international community and the Houthis came together for a resolution that seemed to diffuse a very important economic, humanitarian crisis, which would have resulted in a major spill on Houthi-controlled shores. Fast forward to today, the crisis continues. It seems that the Houthis are not interested in resolving the issue. The tanker is still there. The ship is still there. So from a military perspective, what is your analysis on the value of that ship to the Houthis, and what does it say about their good faith in negotiations?
Fantastic. Good question about Safir. Her in the front row, please. Yes.
سيادة العميد طارق عبد الله رفيق باحث في
Abdullah Rafiq, I am an international researcher. If you look at the Guardians of Prosperity operation in the Red Sea, what is preventing you, as the nationalist opinion and or the allies in the region don't want this, or the Stockholm Agreement before that, or all of that, or none?
الدور تعتقدوه لجيبوتي في تأمين البحر الأحمر إجمالا، وإذا في أي تنسيق بيتم فيما بينكم بينهم. فثلاث أسئلة، تفضل.
بالنسبة للسفينة الصابر.
With respect to the Safar vessel, this confirmed that the crisis in the Red Sea will not end with the end of Gaza war. This confirms to the situation. They have blackmailed the international community by taking $7 billion to replace the ship, and the crisis is still there. Now, instead of Safar, there are hundreds of Safar ships, and we have now the vessel Ruby Mar is it's a ship that was targeted by the Houthis and it's about to sink, and it carries aboard large quantities of oil and ammonia. The Houthis, the crisis in the Red Sea will not end with the end of Gaza, and we try to confirm it, and we want the international community to understand this. The other question is about Hodeidah. Why are you not engaged? They did invite us, but we did not. We refused because it's not our responsibility. Our responsibility is to protect our territories. But Mahmoud Darwish said, if you don't have any security on your shores, no. We are ready. When we speak about the legitimacy or the KSA or the UAE, then we say we have something. But this is not international policies and interests are not built this way. Our capacities and resources is to control our ports, our shores, and our regional waters. But engaging in this battle, this requires capacities. What is the role of Djibouti? We are in coordination with them. According to the available resources, we have communications, we have coordination, and we have joint patrols. To a degree, as this is still a smuggling route through Makkah specifically. Smuggling is diverse, and not everything comes through Djibouti, but there's something comes from Somalia and Bandar Abbas, and we in the Coast Guards have seized a lot of smugglers, and
William Petty, a former British diplomat. I suppose if I have a religion, it's pragmatism. I wonder if the General would say, what are the prospects for a united Yemen ever coming to fruition, or is the reality that what you're negotiating for is a division of Yemen into north and south?
سؤال بريطاني وذكي. موقف على الوحدة. هل اليمن
This is a British question and a smart one at that.
صفتي الشخصية كان قبل أحداث غزة في
from Safer World. Before Gaza, there was a discussion of a peace agreement, and this was actually that did not actually address our rights as Yemenis from the beginning of the war. From your sides, are you well informed of this agreement, and how would it address the concerns of all Yemenis? And because it focuses mostly on the payment of salaries. Third question. The question, do you have any coordination with the Presidential Committee in the economic aspect? or you are only working in the military and security areas? And if you are working only in the security areas, why the southern areas, the simple people are not secured, and they have no organized policing? This is a question about the services of the government and his role as a PLC, because the people on the South thought that things will improve, but that has not happened. The first question about the economic priorities, and the second question is related to the peace agreement and what do you know about it? And the first question is this still possible to keep Yemen intact? Yes, we and the PLC have an agreement of principles that we work as one team to restore the state. And also the right of the people of Yemen to self-determination. So it will not be an imposition of a reality by a component or by certain figures. First, we restore the state, and then the Yemeni people will determine their fate, and that will not be imposed. Is it acceptable that you will sign the roadmap and you don't even have a document? The items of that roadmap is well known to all of us, and we don't need a document. But the Yemeni people are fatigued, and they have suffered from the wars with the Houthis since the first war with them. We were thinking that they will mature and they will accept the roadmap and to prove that they want peace. But we want to prove to the world that the Houthis will evade this. And it doesn't matter what level we reach, but they will evade it, because this is a combatant group. They will continue to fight until their end. As for the surfers, of course, the PLC, we cannot say that, or even the previous government, because they were created in a very difficult circumstances, whether in the economic front or the military front, or because of the events and the challenges that are taking place in the Red Sea. This imposes a lot of challenges, including the deficit and the payment of salaries, in the exports of oil. This has impacted the performance of the government and the institutions, because there were committees already working to reorganize things and restructure. But the situation is not that bad. There is an improvement, and the security situation is much better than it used to be before. Speaking about the current political situation in general, you are always asking the world to classify the Houthis as a terrorist group and to sanction them. Do you agree with this? Surely we do. We said that the Houthis have benefited from the political haggling inside Yemen, and they were able to control the capital Sana'a because of the political differences between political components. And now when we come to the classification during the Trump era, the political haggling as a result of the United States elections has derailed that. I agree. How do you accept sanctioning the Houthis and you do not accept the sanctions against Ahmed Ali Abdullah Saleh? We are talking about sanctions that do not affect the Yemeni citizens. I mean, do you believe that somebody will go out in the streets? There are so many people in the prisons. The head of the teachers union is already in prison because he demanded the payment of salaries, and they want to change the curriculums as well.
Gentleman in the back, and then the one there.
معتصم القاضي من اليمن باحث بجامعة
معتصم القاضي from Yemen. I'm a researcher in the Exeter University. My question is rather goes back to time. Why did the GPC forge an alliance with the Houthis in 2014? Thank you. Yes, with no, this alliance took place during the war and due to certain circumstances. But the world is saying that if Ali Abdullah Saleh didn't look the other way, the Houthis would not have been able to enter Sana'a. You're talking about a president who have handed over everything. They handed over the military camps and everything to the Houthis. I think that what gave the Houthis the social cover is the alliance. The Houthis, when they signed the peace and partnership agreement, when they entered Sana'a, the only component which refused that is the GPC, the General Committee, which is headed by President Ali Abdullah Saleh, issued a statement rejecting that agreement. And how do you say that this is an alliance?
Initiate a new round of peace talks on Yemen settlement, and shall we expect things such as prisoner swap in order to pave the way to get the peace? Thank you.
Fantastic. And Lema? Can you use the microphone this way? One more from this end.
Hi, thank you. What were the amendments that you requested to the draft roadmap? What were the amendments that were requested to the draft roadmap, and why does General Saleh think they were rejected?
سؤالا اولا من اللي هو لازم تحديدا لاطلاق عمليه سياسيه، ما هو الممكن او اللي يلزم عمله لكي تعود هناك عمليه سياسيه ويمكن حولها انه يطلق سجناء والى ما اخره. والسؤال الثاني ما هو تحفظاتكم تحديدا كانت او تعديلاتكم على المقترح السعودي فيما يتعلق بخارطه السلام؟
اولا
to initiate the peace process, the legitimate government has to be fully supported economically and politically, and we need an end to the war in the Red Sea and in Gaza. There have to be de-escalation in the entire region. Everyone has to seek out peace. With the current tensions and what has taken place in the Red Sea, the peace agreement has been frozen, and given the American classification of the Houthis as a terrorist group, then it is difficult to move ahead. But what were your reservations? The payment of salaries, the exports of oil, that it should be the right of the legitimacy and not a common right, including the Houthis was making it a condition that oil and gas would be the resources devoted to the payment of salaries, and we were saying that the custom revenues from Hodeidah, because they are collecting huge revenues from that, and in the Stockholm Agreement, one of its conditions is that the revenues from Hodeidah should have gone to the payment of salaries. But if there is, then let's if there is no peace, then why don't we start implementing the Stockholm Agreement, and that the Houthis withdraw from the port of Hodeidah, and the payment of salaries from the revenues of the ports of Hodeidah, and the establishment of a local authority to manage the affairs of the governorate of Hodeidah. These are the first steps to peace. I will take another round of the question. This is a very important questions. But what about the landmines? And the landmines have been removed after the liberation of the Maha port and the Khoka area up to Hodeidah, and there were many landmines that we faced and the fishermen were facing, and after that for a year or two until they were spit out to the coast. But now in the battle in the Red Sea and the attacks against international navigations, these are the missiles, and it may evolve into having the sea mines, because the mines are blind and they cannot actually identify ships.
أحمد البكري صحفي يمني. السؤال الأول: هل تملكون حل تقدموه الآن للمجتمع الدولي بما يخص البحر الأحمر بعيدا عن نحن قلنا لكم؟
أحمد اليمني, a journalist, do you have a solution that you can provide to the international community? And the second question, you said that you fought using your bodyguards in 2017. So where were the Central Security Forces and the Republican Guards? Your Excellency, you know that it's not the first time that sanctions are imposed on the Houthis. The Houthis say that they are now sanctioned because they are fighting in the Red Sea, defending Palestine. There have been sanctions on them before, U.S. Sanctions for war crimes they committed against women. Human rights violations have increased in Yemen, and the Houthis recently issued a death sentence against a political activist. And before that, there have been 5 death sentences against women in Yemen by the Houthis. Is the international community credible in addressing the issue of the Houthis? And do we trust the international community as Yemenis? Do we trust them? Well, do you trust the international community that they will do something against the Houthis? And the second question, or the previous one, was what's the solution? Well, the solution is that the government has to extend its control to the entire territories of Yemen and the coastline primarily. So there should be support to the government in order to achieve that, in order to have full control over Yemen. On the sanctions and the trust in the international community, I believe now the role of the international community was enhanced. Their interest in the Red Sea are affected, and now the international community sees the Houthis as they are. As they are, they see them as they are, not using dark glasses. The question, where the Republican Guards disappear and the Central Security Forces, this is the question. Well, the army was restructured. The question should have been asked then, because the army was restructured. We have seen them in 2011. They came to the protesters. In 2012, 2013, they have declared that the restructuring of the army was completed, and that it's an army that is under the control of the state. So the restructuring led to that. And the Houthis, when they invaded Sana'a, they controlled the camps, and they appointed Zakaria Shami as the deputy head chief of staff. So we should not hold accountable Ahmed Ali. He was an ambassador in Emirates then. This is not right.
أخوكم مصطفى بن خالد.
Mustafa bin Ali, the Secretary General of the Yemeni Committee for Peace. My question to you, General, do you think that there is possibility for the Yemenis to sit on the negotiations table as Yemenis to have an inclusive and just peace for Yemen? Thank you. If you do not trust the international community, why don't you solve it internally as Yemenis? We'll take the last question and then we will conclude. Your Excellency, away from the Iranian role or the axis of resistance and the Houthis, do you think that there is a Russian role? Will the Russians take advantage of this in order to support the Houthis, in order to confuse their enemies in the region, the Americans and the British, and to distract them from the war in Ukraine? Well, what is unique about the Yemeni crisis is that there is an international consensus to keep it away from the international polarization. And the G10, when they convene and the ambassadors say that the Yemeni crisis should be resolved away from this polarization. I do not have any information about a Russian role in this escalation. The Yemeni talks are there, we have them. And the evidence of that is that we have established a PLC from all the parties in Yemen. The Houthis refused to establish a political party, and they wanted to have one color in the country, one doctrine, one religion, and one opinion. So, well, a lot of things could be said, but our time is up. I'd like to thank you for your candor and for coming to Chatham House. Thank you, everyone. I'd like to thank our colleagues who organized for the event, Isra and everyone. And for the online participants, you can watch it on www.chathamhouse.org. We'd like to thank you for your candor. Thank you, and we'd like to thank, lastly, I'd like to thank the most important speaker, who is the translator. Thank you.